What's up, everybody? My name is Mitchell Brewer, and today it is March 15th, Monday. I hope you have an awesome start to the week. Here is your NASCAR news for the day. The big story: Pocono Raceway is announcing that they will have 50% fan capacity, saying the following. Following today's announcement by Governor Tom Walz, Pennsylvania outdoor events will be able to operate at 50% capacity starting April 4th, 2021. This is incredible news for our beloved fans, and we cannot wait to see fans back at the Tricky Triangle this summer. The health and safety of our guests remains a top priority. We will work with Wolf administration, health officials, and NASCAR to ensure the necessary recommendations and protocols are met prior to our June 25th race weekend. I think this is pretty crazy news, especially considering from a racetrack that, if I remember correctly, was on the kind of cusp of being canceled last year. I think, if I remember correctly, I think a lot of people were worried about this race even happening last year. And now, at least just at least as of right now, they seem to be the racetrack that could be hosting fans, the most amount of fans in the quickest period of time, pending. I mean, June's still pretty far away. We could see a lot of racetracks, and I think that's been kind of a reoccurring theme. Is we're seeing more and more and more tracks opening up to more fans, and I think that's going to be something that could be a trend coming up. So, for all of you wanting to go out to a NASCAR race, it seems like maybe we're getting closer and closer. Maybe by the end of the year we could have 75, maybe 100%. I don't know. It's going to be something worth watching. Hopefully everything goes well so that we can continue on that right path towards having normalcy again. I think that's what everybody, I think the media, I think the drivers, you saw it with Martin Truex Jr. with how excited he was yesterday when he climbed out of the race car and had a pretty decent showing of fans at Phoenix. I think everybody wants that normalcy back. It's just a matter of when is the right time for that. So, Pocono Raceway, 50% fan capacity. And honestly, I think that's going to make the race a little bit more enjoyable, is having all those fans there. Because I think everybody, especially in these first few races back with more and more fans in the stands, I think that's going to create a little bit more of an excitement and create a buzz. I think people are ready to come back to sporting events and just be hyped for their favorite, whether it's a NASCAR driver or whether it's a different sport. I think people are excited. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Again, I hope it turns out the best. In other news today, Austin Cindric Team Penske announced for him that he will be back in the Cup Series driving the 33 this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And I've seen a couple of comments saying, oh, he should be making starts at the road course races or whatever. I think this is a perfect place for Austin to make a Cup Series start. It's a long race. He's going to get a lot of experience if he can keep the car clean. And Atlanta's a racetrack that is kind of your stereotypical mile and a half oval racetrack, maybe a little bit beaten up. And I think it's a good track for somebody like Austin who doesn't have a lot of Cup experience to go and learn at and to go and race at. And it could be a good evaluation of where his team is at. And maybe it's going to give Team Penske an opportunity to go and try some things with Austin and maybe see if those things can work maybe with one of their front three cars. Either way, I think this is a very smart move. It kind of reminds me of Chase Elliott back in the day when he was first making his first couple of starts with Hendrick Motorsports. They sent him to they sent him to a lot of different racetracks, and I think that's something that it should be kind of a par for the course. And look at how Chase Elliott's turned out. Of all the young guys that have came through the ranks in recent years, he's the only one with a championship. So I think that format is going to be really good, and I think Austin's kind of following a lot in the Chase Elliott format things with the extra season of Xfinity. And personally, I think that's going to benefit him a lot. I think a lot of times you see guys making their debuts at like the Daytona 500 and for a full season, like, because Austin obviously made his debut at the Daytona 500, but he's on a part-time schedule. You have a lot of guys that come into the Cup Series and all of a sudden they're going to be racing full time, and the Daytona 500 is their first start, and they got to figure out fast. And if they don't figure it out fast, well, sorry, but you're getting kicked out for the next big thing. And I think what they're doing with Austin Cindric, I think will benefit them a lot in the long run. Other news, Bubba Wallace will test the next gen car tomorrow and Wednesday at Richmond Raceway, kind of continuing the pattern of having different drivers in there. I know a lot of people on Twitter, whenever Bubba is involved, it's always going to draw some complaints, but a lot of people are saying, why not more veteran drivers? I think this is perfect. I think, especially with somebody like Bubba, who will be in the series for a long time to come, I think he's a good person to get some feedback back on. I think everybody should get a chance to test this next gen car. I think that's the perfect way to get as much information as possible so that you do get the right race car. I think a lot of times fans, especially with like the Xfinity series, whenever you see like a driver go to the Xfinity series and like, oh, I love these cars, they're hard to handle or whatever the typical complaint or typical compliment of the Xfinity series is, and I like the fact that they're going and taking all these drivers' feedbacks, and I like that there's a wide variety of drivers that they're getting feedback from. I think it's the right move. I'm intrigued to see what Bubba Wallace says about the next gen car. In smaller sponsorship pieces of news, there was a lot of sponsorship announcements today. Apparently, Monday is the time for all these announcements, so let's just go right on through them. Tubi will sponsor Chip Ganassi Racing beginning this weekend at Atlanta with Ross Chastain, and then later in the season at Richmond with Kurt Busch. Nice to see for Ross Chastain, who I know has been running a lot of Chevrolet generic cars recently, so it's nice to see him get a different sponsor besides Chevrolet on the car. Speaking of a team that continues to get sponsors on a weekly basis, Spire Motorsports announced that the NFL alumni in Folds Varner will sponsor Corey LaJoie. SiriusXM will sponsor Christopher Bell for 4 races this season, and Alsco will sponsor Tyler Reddick and Matt Snyder this season. And in our last big piece of news, it was kind of already revealed earlier in the year with an Instagram post by his sponsor, but Martin Truex Jr., he is going to be coming back to the Truck Series for the first time, and I had to look this up because I do not remember Martin Truex Jr. ever being in the Truck Series, and there's a reason for that. He raced in 2 races. 2. I can't emphasize that enough. He has not a lot of experience in the Truck Series. His last start coming in 2007. That's crazy, and he will be running not this weekend, but the following weekend at the Bristol Dirt Race with Kyle Busch Motorsports. He confirmed that yesterday in his post-race press conference after he won yesterday's race at Phoenix. And I'm really intrigued to see this dirt race, especially because now you have guys like Chase Briscoe, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., who aren't usually in the Truck Series, and now they're going to be trying to get some extra track time. And I think it's especially interesting for Martin Truex, who, as I mentioned, he isn't a guy that usually dips into the lower series, and now he's going to be running the Xfinity Series race this weekend. His first start in that series since 2010. It's interesting because in this age where NASCAR has put a big limit on Cup driver participation in the lower series, we haven't seen as many guys in there. We haven't seen I remember growing up as a kid, you'd see like guys like Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch just running all of the Xfinity and a lot of the truck races, and now you don't see a lot of that. And personally, I know a lot of people have their own opinion on it. I think that's a great thing. I think it's been the best thing for the Xfinity and Truck Series. I think it's made both of those series a lot better. But yeah, now I'm a guy that likes to see not a lot of the Cup Series guys in the Xfinity and Truck Series. Like I said, I think it makes for the best possible show, competition, whatever you want to call it, for the Xfinity and Truck Series. But I don't mind seeing it once in a while. I wish in the Truck Series, Truex isn't running for Joe Gibbs. He's running for Kyle Busch Motorsports. I'd like to see it more where these Cup guys come down and maybe help a lower tier team and run races like that. Like Chase Briscoe, I believe, is running with Corey Roper's team. I think that's really cool, and that's something I'd like to see a little bit more of if Cup drivers are going to run in lower series more. I don't want to see them running with Joe Gibbs. I think it was really cool the one year that Kyle Busch and his brother Kurt drove in the Xfinity Series with Kyle Busch Motorsports. It only lasted a year, And I think a large part of that was because of funding. But I think a lot of that also relates back to the fact that they weren't winning races in there. I think Kurt won one race that season. And I don't think a lot of drivers want to go down there and not win races, which is why they go and run with the Joe Gibbs Racings or what have you. And I'd like to see a lot more of that. But that's a subject for a whole different time. I'm intrigued to get you guys' thoughts on all of the news today. Are you excited about fans coming back to Pocono? How do you think Austin Cindric's going to do? And what do you think about Martin Truex Jr. and all these guys coming in and invading the Truck Series, not this weekend, but the following weekend for the Bristol Dirt Race? I'd love to hear it. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Be sure to check us out on Facebook at Black Hat Sports, and check us out on our new TikTok account at Black Hat Sports. Hope you have a great rest of your day.